Okay, so these last couple of hunts have been, what do you call it? Element-based lances. Let's go and look at status. Let's talk about status. Let's talk about status. Now, I have 3 or 4 status lances. I was working on a sleep one. I never really finished it. There's not I think it's like what, 2 sleep lances innately? One of them is this fragrance thing that I never finished because it requires me to pick daisies and whatnot. I'm not about to go outside and pick daisies. The other one is this guy right here. But at 180 it's kind of low, and because it's like maxed out on sharpness, it's rendering my set practically useless. So let's not focus on sleep, but let's focus on paralysis. Now I have 2 paralysis lances. I have this one, and I have the Narjala lance here. Fundamentally, they're both the same. Fundamentally, I mean, this one has affinity. This one had a negative affinity, but with this critical eye 1, I get 0 affinity, which is better than none. Well, negative. It has a little bit more attack and a little bit more element, and the defense isn't as high. So in certain cases, I'll just use this one for the affinity and the defense or whatever. But this one could be honed for anything, so it could be honed for attack, and it would just render the other one completely useless. But for all intents and purposes, due to ease of use and come by, we're going to use this one, because you can just totally go out and make this one right now. It's free. But we're going to work on statuses with the lances. Lancing and statusing doesn't really go hand in hand unless you know exactly what you're doing. Let's see if we can actually make this monster get paralyzed. I mean, fighting this bad boy paralyzed is going to be a good thing for everyone, because the paralyzed monster doesn't move and allows everyone to benefit from it. Even the bow, actually, especially like bow users and greatsword users like my comrades. I want to say camaraderie, but I wanted to say comrade, and I got tongue-tied. But like my comrades right here, both greatswording and bowing, not the plane, but arching. English is hard, okay? I can't speak. Someone help me speak. I'm done. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I ran out of stuff to say. I'm just rambling on. But we're gonna use this lance. Status. On. See, I can't talk. On. Maggy. Schneid. Speak. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, because I know my homegirl Cereza, this is her "It's About to Go Down" set. It's a great sword. I think max raw. I'm not sure, but it has like 600 paralysis. So this thing's gonna be paralyzed. All right. Element normally works better with the lance because the lance's speed in which it attacks isn't the highest. It's around medium. So element really gets the job done, because element just benefits everyone except the slowest of attackers. Now, if you are the slowest of attacker, it's best that you have like lots of element, so that way you could take the greatest use out of it. Even more so for something like status, because the status doesn't hit every single time you hit the monster. So you want as much status to be inflicted as possible. Whereas weapons like the sword and shield, dual blaze longsword, I held it because I knew the tail was coming and I already missed the head. But weapons that like move quickly, insect glaive, dual blaze, etc., they don't really need that much element or even that much status, because they're going to be hitting quite often. So with the lance, you just want to find that happy medium. I say if you're going to get status, try to find something upwards to around 300 or so. 300 or so status is in my opinion the midpoint. For status element, you normally want to be just a little bit higher, because element you want to make the monsters dead as quickly as possible, but you can get away with anything around 250 and up, like a little less lenient than you would for status, but I still totally recommend mad element and mad status. If you can get mad of anything, especially status, just go for that, because we don't hit as often. So well, we hit pretty quickly, but you know, it's best to have just a little bit more status. We do have the charge, and with the charge you're able to do consecutive hits back to back, but the charge, for all intents and purposes, isn't the most useful attack to use, especially when fighting online. One thing I like to really bring up when it comes to fighting online is hunter etiquette. You don't want to intrude on your fellow hunters. Longswords, there's nothing you can do if you're a longsword user. You're just gonna, if you're going all out, you're gonna screw with all your friends, because the longsword is literally designed for more sweeping attacks. So more often than not, you're gonna trip up all your teammates. But with the lance, that's really not so much the case, because we're a very vertical based weapon. Granted though, if you use the charge, you can charge through where you would normally attack, and charge through enemies, charge through opponents, I mean not opponents, teammates. So it can get rough. I like how you evaded through the tail just then. I might need to like think about using that more often, because the timing on that is strict enough to where I can get away with it. If I can counter the head, evade instantly, even without evasion 1, you can go through the tail. Much like how I have this really good affinity of evading through Devil Joe tail swipes when I'm attacking. But yo, that's status. Poison happens more often than not, more so than paralysis. Paralysis, just like anything, you're gonna need more paralysis to put something in a paralyzed state. Granted, resiliences differ between each monster. So one monster could be more resilient to status, as another one could be less resilient, things like that. So take all this into account before choosing a particular weapon, especially status weapon when using a lance. With that being said, having to actually put things like this into account due in part to its normally it's normally low status attack. Like this one's 270. I think there's one other status, one other paralysis one. It's the global one. It's a little bit higher, but it lacks in sharpness and attack. But having to put all these things in perspective, it's normally best to not even go for status lancing, unless you're using the Yongruga unless you're using the Yongruga lance, which in my opinion is the Yongruga lance is the lance's best status weapon, hands down. Good sharpness, 3 slots. Decent attack, fairly decent attack, you know what I mean, and really good poison on top of that. So if you're ever fighting Kush Bush Madush, aka Kush Laduara, or Kush Duor, or whatever they want to call it, that's why I call it Kush Bush Ladush, you can totally use that and feel very capable. Okay, you're gonna paralyze that bad boy. Alright, it's gonna, not paralyze, excuse me, you're gonna poison it. It can just be you, and you're gonna get it done. But that's my 2 cents when it comes to status. I didn't talk about sleep, because sleep and paralysis literally are one and the same. Like, monsters have resiliences to them. More often than not, because of the speed in which we do things, you're gonna want to have the higher number. So the more sleep, the best. Well, the better. Same thing with paralysis, of course. So that's me when it comes to status lancing. I mean, it's totally a thing. It's quite viable. You can get it done. It's just normally better suited to something a bit quicker. The lance, in my opinion, is the last weapon you can get away with like status with. Anything slower than lance, it's not worth it. Gun lancing, it is not worth it. Gun lancing is slower than lancing, because you can land more hits with the lance than you could with the gun lance. Even though the gun lance itself is probably stronger, that may be the case, but there's more animation to the gun lance attacks. You know, the swinging and the fact that you have to use like the weight of the lance itself as opposed to just your arm thrust to get the job done. So a lot of things go into account. I mean, this is a lot of information to wrap your head around. I'm just kind of like giving you guys everything I know about the lance and all my years of learning the lance. So hopefully, if anything, you walk away with knowing a little bit more. If I've missed anything, keep it to yourself. I'm kidding. Share the information. I mean, like, this is the internet, the information superhighway. Why not share more information? I mean, I'm not against my ego here. Actually, I'm totally against my ego here. I don't really care about my ego right now, because I already know I'm good with the lance. You ain't got to tell me I'm bad with the lance. I know what I'm doing. Some people say I might not be as optimized or as efficient, but this is my playstyle. This is my lancing playstyle. It's a mix. It's a mix of efficiency and other things. That's what makes it the most comfortable way for me to play. And did you see that? Did you see that? We went in there with element and we was getting pushed around. We went in there with status and we did the pushing around. You know what I mean? His inability to move as often as efficient as he would like to because we had him paralyzed 3-4 times throughout the fight was great. And I'm gonna give it up to my homegirl Mavius. Well, that great sword is a slammer. Not gonna front that great sword is strong. It might have something to do with that. It might have had something to do with that. Wait, I don't even know what the hell did I just carve? What the hell is that? An eclipse? I don't even think I have one of those. Whatever. Regardless, good stuff. Good stuff, everyone. Did we cut the tail? I think we did. I'm not worried about it. Great job. Hopefully we don't fight this monster again in any iteration, because I hate it. I hate Maggy. A lot of people like this monster. Can't stand it. Very good monster to lance against. But I still don't like the monster. Another eclipse. Okay. I guess I just don't fight this monster G rank enough. That's probably what it is. Oh well. 555 55 55 0.